Good morning, beautiful people of the center. Hi. That's a beautiful introduction to our theme and our topic this morning, surrender and acceptance, as part of our focus on silence as a spiritual practice. But before I talk about silence as a spiritual practice, I want to just have a look at what we've been doing all year. Our theme this year has been practice, practice, practice. And we've been doing that. We've been practicing. Oh, we've been practicing. Oh, how we have been practicing. The word practice itself, what does it mean, somebody asked? Well, it's the thing, the activity, the time and energy that you do that expresses your spirituality. That's the thing, that's what we're talking about. Whatever it is that you do that expresses your spirituality. And the word itself, practice, suggests this ongoing, regular nature and the expansion and improvement that comes along with that kind of consistency. And we've certainly been having a look at that. We started at the beginning of the year with let's see, where did we start? With affirmative prayer. Spiritual mind treatment is the exact term that we use for affirmative prayer in our tradition, because in our tradition, prayer is somewhat different from how mainstream definitions of prayer go. For us, spiritual mind treatment is an affirmative style declaration that takes place in my own personal awareness, in my own mind. And the idea of prayer is to realign myself with reality. You know, I used to have a wood-burning stove. And every year I would have to get a chimney sweep to come and clean out the chimney. And it was really an old world type of activity. I mean, he would arrive with those brushes, you know, those very interesting brushes, just like in Mary Poppins, and he would come and he would get in there and he would clean them all out. And what he would do was he would remove all of the accumulated soot from the whole year. And it occurred to me that if I didn't do that, it could turn out to be hazardous, and the device wouldn't function as well as it could. And that's exactly what spiritual mind treatment is like. It's the process of systematically cleaning out the accumulated grime so that that which is the reality of that clean, beautiful delivery system can be available to me. So in that way, our prayer it's not a petition, there's no asking in it, and it's not a request. It's rather my own personal use of this mind that I was given that connects me to all mind everywhere, which is why we are of the opinion that our prayer, our spiritual mind treatment, can be done on behalf of other people because we're all connected on this level. So in January, we started off with this experiment of focused attention as a group. And we followed this little brochure as we decided as a group to pray about various things like leadership in our community, like agriculture, like the air quality. It was a wonderful experiment that we started with. The next month, we turned our attention to the practice of spiritual fasting, and we had a little booklet to guide us along with it called Releasing Self-Defeating Thoughts. So it was a month of intentionally withdrawing our attention from self-defeating negative mind chatter and replacing it, in other words, daily focusing our attention on something else, something enriching. Oh, that is a spiritual practice worth developing into a regular habit. I think of it as taking spiritual supplements. That's what it is, yeah. You know, I take my omega-3 fatty acids every morning, you know, because I notice that when I do, I feel better. And it's pretty commonly known now that having that right balance of those in your body has an uplifting effect on your emotions. It's a very good thing to do. But if I fall out of the habit, the practice of taking, it's not right or wrong, it's not good or bad, it's just I don't get the benefit of it. That's all it is. And so it is with my mental chatter. It's not good or bad or right or wrong, it's just that when I fall out of the habit of proper supplements, I get what goes along with that. That was the month in which so many people took the affirming ideas and they posted it onto their Facebook pages. And in that way, we reached out beyond the walls of our center, and so with such beautiful beneficial effect. Friends and families beyond our center's community were being benefited by this beautiful practice we were having. And it reminded me that we do indeed affect each other with our spiritual practice. And so I looked up in our textbook, which is The Science of Mind, our guide to spirituality, and I remembered this beautiful piece just about this supplementation. It says in here, we shall do well to remember this lesson. How often we condemn when we should forgive. How often we censure when we might praise. What untold grief of heart might be relieved by words of cheer and forgiveness, especially should this lesson be remembered in the training of children, for they so readily respond to the thought of others. And it really got to me that what is passing through my own consciousness is not for me alone, but for everyone, that I affect everyone by how I maintain my inner household. So the future I'm looking to create, it starts right here with me being the kind of internal presence that I want to see outpictured in the world. It was a very powerful, powerful reminder. Then the next month, we turned our attention to meditation as a spiritual practice. And again, we got a beautiful spiritual resource booklet to guide us. And I looked into the terms, the definition of terms. It's called the glossary in our textbook, The Science of Mind. I looked up the entry on meditation to see what it says there, also to use it as an illustration of how we might take this language that was written in the 20s and 30s and adapt it so that it is more friendly for our modern language use. So I brought it and I changed it to read this way. By meditation, we mean the recognition of the power within and the certainty of our oneness with the whole, which leads to the awareness of the immediate availability of this power. See, I have to change it to make a sentence that means something to me. And here's the important part. Such communion with divinity brings harmony into our lives and makes us a light to all who cross our pathway. In other words, meditation is the time and the energy, the practice that you and I spend that leads us to a definite recognition of the one power within and around us. It's a wonderful thing. And the question arises, so what do you do? What thing do you do that leads to that on a daily basis? I just returned from a trip to New Zealand with some members of the Center for Spiritual Living. And it occurred to me that travel creates stress in general. For a number of normal reasons, being cooped up in an aircraft for 12 hours, landing in an unknown environment, being in a different time zone, being away from what is familiar, all of those things can create stress. So what we did was every single day at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, we gathered and had meditation for 45 minutes. And let me tell you, every single person on that tour showed up for all of this practice. Then we had 45 minutes of yoga. Then we broke and we ate breakfast together. Then we returned and we sat in a group meeting to share and reflect and appreciate. And this routine that we had every single morning, I'm confident in telling you that it was the glue that held the group together. Because what it was doing for us, it was helping us return on a daily basis to the state of mind that we wanted to be in. So instead of having our state of mind being dictated by unfamiliar circumstances, rushed airports, etc. We plugged into the state of mind we wanted to be in. And talking of plugging in, one of my friends has got one of these new electric cars. And he came and he visited the center and he saw all of our solar panels. And he said, when are you going to have one of those plug-in stations? Because apparently now you have to plug in when you arrive. And it occurred to me, well, that's exactly what meditation is. Except that you've got to plug in before you leave. Right? Because if you don't plug in before you leave, you're never going to get there. The next month, we turned our attention to forgiveness. And again, a beautiful spiritual resource booklet to guide us through the month. And forgiveness is the ongoing practice of freeing up mental and emotional resources that are being used up by events that happened in the past. So one of my friends said to me, when will it ever end? I mean, we talk about forgiveness every single year. When is it enough? And I said, well, when there is nothing left to hold on to, that's when we're done. Then we arrive in the present moment. So until that time, we continue practicing, and it occurred to me that forgiveness is possibly one of the most tender practices of the spiritual life that requires so much gentleness and willingness and understanding and patience and permission and quietness and individuality. And I looked up again in the textbook to see what our founder might say, and he said we cannot afford to hold on to personal animosities against the world or individual members of society, because all such thinking cannot be taken into the heavenly consciousness. Wow. And then we turned our attention in May to gratitude. We talked in that month about the beautiful power of giving. That was the month we had that book, that recommended book about a year of thank you notes. Do you remember that? And then one Sunday, we handed out blank thank you cards to every single person in the congregation and invited them to wait for the correct time to know when to write that card. And I keep on hearing about people getting surprise thank you notes, handwritten, beautiful notes of appreciation. And I've been getting a few many months later, and oh, what a beautiful, beautiful practice. And it occurs to me that this practice of saying thank you is such a simple one, so easy, so accessible to anyone who is willing to invest the time in doing it. And when one does invest time in this practice, it unlocks the truly magical power that comes with acknowledging, appreciating, complimenting, recognizing, praising. It occurs to me that such a small thing can have such a powerful contribution to the world is a miracle. It's a beautiful mystery to me. Yesterday, we had a pizza party for the volunteers who work in our youth and family ministry, because, they take care of the lessons for our children. So it's an invisible force of volunteer people working out there. We don't get to see them, so we had a pizza party to acknowledge them. And it occurred to me that, they don't do what they do for a pizza party. Right? I mean, they're already fulfilled in their service. The pizza party is really for us as an organization, so that we are mindful to never take for granted what is coming our way, that we keep organization, our heart of gratitude open. And we're going to be talking more about how to develop a consciousness of gratitude on Thanksgiving Eve, on Wednesday night, when the choir will be singing and there's practically a whole orchestra on the stage. That will make you feel grateful, just that by itself. Then, the next month, we shifted our attention to journaling. Again, a beautiful booklet to accompany us. And journaling, to me, is another form of meditation, in that it slows down and focuses thought. It's not so much about getting to an end product, like getting an accurate account of details or a historic account of your life, although it can be that it's more about what happens when I slow down my thought enough so that I can look into my soul, inward gazing, clean, drop, clear, forgive, so that when I move about the world among my fellow human beings, I'm available, less cluttered, cleared open. So my personal journaling practices become very valuable to me, very important, and it takes on different styles. For example, sometimes my journaling is a place for me to let it all come out. It's like therapy. Sometimes my journaling is a place for me to put down those messy ideas that ought not to be put down on other people, so that I can quickly release them without denying them. And sometimes it's a place for me to work out what I think about big ideas. I'll just write a question on the top of my journal. What is God? And see what comes out. It's a very, very valuable practice for clearing and preparing the way. The next month, we turned to service as a spiritual practice. This is the practice of contributing your personal time, energy, and skills to the well-being of others. Now, you know, our Center for Spiritual Living is staffed by a small nation of volunteers. Really. Yeah, I've just mentioned the youth and family ministry. Also, the video team that records our videos and uploads it, all volunteers. For the most part, our music ministry, all volunteers. Our hospitality crew and so on, ushers and so on, all volunteers. In other words, there is a very strong culture of contributing time and energy here at the Center for Spiritual Living. And I thought about it, and I did a little experiment. If we had to pay for it all, we couldn't afford it. I mean, it literally takes hundreds of people and hundreds of hours for this. It doesn't just happen. There's a tremendous investment of time, energy, and love in having this happen. And service is the other side, it's the mirror image, it's the other side of the coin of that other kind of giving that we talked about the following month, and that is the contribution of your treasure and resources, the act of actual giving. We talked about that in terms of the reciprocal nature of life, the idea of what goes around comes around. And we talked about how what is in my heart and in my mind when I give is the setup for how I receive. We talked all about that, and how when we have a practice of giving, that we unlock this amazing, elegant power of generosity, and how that generosity connects us on a heart level to the whole world. And when I'm giving, that's when I truly know and discover the amazing benefits, personally and globally, of having an attitude, a mindset of sharing. It's part of our vision for our whole movement. It's part of our global statement. It says right there, we see a world in which there is generous and ongoing sharing of resources in which borders are irrelevant. And it starts right here at home, and I might say we do it rather well. The next month, we moved on to chanting, and that month we did not give out a booklet. Instead, we handed out a CD, and might I say that this was the month that was both the most and the least popular month. But we made it through in one piece. There were no casualties that I'm aware of. And may I say that after the month, we continue to sell this Chanting as a Spiritual Resource CD all over the country, people write in to the bookstore to get it. You see, the idea of chanting isn't really an extension of prayer and affirmation. It's the idea that powerful ideas repeated over time regularly and then accompanied or deepened by music and rhythm have the power to just go into us and clear those pipes. So I got a testimonial on Facebook from one of the people who follow our community using electronic media. And she wrote saying, "Here is a chant tale. I had to make an unexpected trip to the emergency room. No worries. And after everyone had done what they were supposed to do, I was left in the room alone for just enough time to start worrying. So I began chanting quietly. I am whole and complete in God. I am whole and complete in God. I am whole and complete in God. I am whole and complete in God." I don't know just how much time passed, but apparently I was completely high because I didn't hear someone come back into the room and speak to me. She became concerned that I was muttering and not responding to her. So she rushed out to call in the doctor, thinking I might be delusional. When they asked me, I responded, "Oh no," I explained. "I'm perfectly clear that I'm whole and complete in God." Isn't that priceless? The next month, we turned our attention to creative expression, and we looked at those ideas that are so prominent in the world of art, such as, what were they? Authenticity, perspective, resiliency, and we translated them into ideas that we can apply in our spiritual journey as well. We had suggestions for practicing that, and that brings us then to this month, silence as a spiritual practice. And I want to say that while I was away, Reverend Joyce DeFalla spoke in my absence, and I got so many notes of appreciation from people who told me that they really appreciated her message. And I wanted to tell you, in case you missed it, that it is available for viewing. Our videos are available for viewing online. You just go to www.cslsr.org and go look at the video. It's available there, as is all of our Sunday messages of this whole year with all of the guest speakers and all of the regular messages. And for that, we have to thank Amanda Rains and the whole video team, all volunteers who make sure that it's all videoed, edited, and uploaded for not only our benefit, but for a wide reach of people who view us all the time. And if you prefer to hear your message on audio, it's also available there to be automatically downloaded as a podcast, and for that we have to thank Peter Stickney, who every single week tirelessly, a volunteer, makes sure that it's uploaded and they're available for you. And if you would like to, as you listen along, read the spiritual resource booklets, all of these guys, all of them are available online for free download on our website also. And for that, we have to thank Alan Yeager, another volunteer, or you can purchase them in our bookstore, which is staffed by volunteers if you want to. A whole small nation of volunteers that make this look like it's the easiest thing in the world that just happens. I was talking to a young woman feeling all puffed up with pride about how wonderful our service and its offerings are, and she was having a rather hard time with her life in general at the time, feeling a bit frail. And I said to her, "Well, isn't this year and all of this focus helping you?" And she said, "No, it is not. I look at all of this and I feel totally overwhelmed. How am I supposed to do all of this? How am I supposed to fit this into my life with all of my studies and everything I'm supposed to do?" And she just went crazy, and I realized, I said to her, "I think I've given you the wrong impression. This is just the buffet table. You're not supposed to eat it all. You're supposed to select, pick and choose. It's not that you do it all, it's that you do something. Anything will do. I'm not trying to make your faith tradition. I'm interested in finding out what it is that you do so that when somebody asks you, what is your spiritual practice, you know. You know, when we interview people at the center for various things, for example, to enter the school of ministry or to enter into professional prayer training or for prospective board of trustees members, we frequently ask that question. What is your spiritual practice? And it's not that we are looking for the right answer. We're looking for an answer, right? We're looking for somebody who answers definitely with confidence. I do this, because then we know that person is talking from experience. It's not book learning, it's an experience. They have a confident relationship with their spirit. We want to know that. We can trust those people. We think. And talking of buffet tables, does bring me back to the topic for today, acceptance and surrender, because it reminds me of the last day of that trip in New Zealand. Was we went to the top of a mountain in the city of Queensland to look out at the beautiful view, and we were going to have a buffet farewell dinner with our peeps together, and then all these buses of tourists from another country arrived. And of course there was the language barrier, so we couldn't quite communicate, and apparently these people that arrived had a different sense of body space. And in a moment, all of a sudden it was as if there was this swarm of people going around everywhere and pushing through lines, and I realized in a moment I was not happy. And I just heard the thought in my head, I don't want to be here. But it was at the end of our journey, and I had been thinking ahead of the message today, and I remembered the book, Stillness Speaks, which is our recommended reading, and this piece just popped into my memory from it. It says, "It is true, of course, that some places are good places to walk out of. And sometimes that may well be the most appropriate thing for you to do. In many cases, however, walking out is not an option. In all of those cases, the I don't want to be here is not only useless, but also dysfunctional. It makes you and the others around you unhappy." Ugh. And I remembered my friend that I told you about 2 weeks ago who told me she practices her inner silence at the airport. And I thought to myself, this is not much different. This is not that different. And I realized in that moment that I had before me the opportunity to really make things even more unpleasant by letting my attention be hijacked. Or I could accept the terms of engagement. What are the terms? Very simple. This is what is happening now. So I sat down and I remember the moment of making a conscious decision to enjoy myself. And everything changed. I found myself having an amazing, wonderful time. Everything changed for me. The swarming continued. You see, because peace, stillness, silence is not the absence of life and its activity. It's what happens inside of us while we are in our life. It goes on in that little book to say, do you really need to mentally label every sense, perception, and experience? Do you really need to have a reactive like-dislike relationship with life, where you are in almost continuous conflict with situations and people? Or is that just a deep-seated mental habit that can be broken? Not by doing anything, but by allowing this moment to be as it is. Well, I might say by doing these practices also, because they are practices of allowing and mindfulness. And I think that I could make that movement more easily because I had been meditating with the group every single day. I had been clearing out the pipes, taking the supplements. I was in a position, the routine set me up to make favorable decisions about my peace of mind. It reminded me of the power of spiritual practice and having the space in my life where I can come routinely home to refuel the deep soul peace that comes from having time like that in life. And that's what we're moving into in December. December's focus is on retreat. How do we create a personal spiritual retreat in my life without having to pack up and move to another country? How do I do it here? And that's what we're going to be speaking on. Now, this idea of surrender, I want to talk about for a moment because it does not mean give up on life. Acceptance does not mean just give up. It means rather give up what causes stress and what takes me out of my heart. Sometimes surrender means giving up trying to understand and becoming comfortable with not knowing. And as this holiday season gears up with its excitement and busyness and beckons to us to be involved, it occurred to me that for you and I to remain in our hearts as the swarming continues is one of the most beautiful gifts we can possibly give to our friends and family. And when the busyness of the season is at its height, because we have been practicing as we have this whole year, think of this. We have been put in a position to make beneficial decisions about our peace of mind no matter what is going on because we have been practicing. A lot is going on, and in closing, this is the piece I bring to you from the book. I have so much to do. I came home to 398 emails in my inbox. Yes, he writes, but what is the quality of your doing? Driving to work, speaking to clients, working on the computer, running errands, dealing with the countless things that make up your daily life. How total are you in what you do? Is your doing surrendered or non-surrendered? Because this is what determines your success in life. It's a mindfulness practice, this silence thing of being here now no matter what's going on and no matter what waits for me. And you know, one of the places in my life where I truly get to experience that single-mindedness, that presence of peace is here on Sundays with you. Because I'm here. I don't need to be anywhere else. My mind's not anywhere else. I'm right here with you. And there are moments when we are together, and maybe you feel this too, when there's nothing else. And for me, it is like plugging in and refueling. I cherish it. I feel so fortunate to have this experience with you that I can say, I know what that place in consciousness is like. I see it. I stand in it sometimes. And it prepares me to handle so much. So that's it. We've been busy. And there's more to come. So much more to come. Beautiful, nourishing, spiritual learning. So I invite you now to take a moment with me, breathe in and exhale.